it just seems like at every time we get to this point of the year, football's about to start, football's underway, and there's always something that's going to be knocked against Lamar Jackson. And in this case, it's a clip of Stephen A. Smith making a comment that Lamar Jackson, unlike another top quarterback in the league, has no excuses. So we're going to play the clip, and then, Kevin, we're going to talk about this on the other side.
Matt, you cannot. I understand. And Swagoo, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Lamar Jackson, you listen. He ain't wrong. You that bad, brother, as in good, as in great. We know how phenomenal you are. But we're talking to cats that religiously state when it's time is when you're really, really measured. Now, if you don't find yourself in that moment because you got a sorry team around you like Matthew Stafford had for 12 years, we're able to appreciate your greatness and the depreciation of the product around you and say, yo, that ain't on you. We haven't been able to say that about Lamar Jackson. We've looked at the Baltimore Ravens. What do we rave about? We rave about Coach John Harbaugh. We rave about their defense. We rave about their rough rider mentality, the intestinal fortitude that they have. Shannon, champion with the Baltimore Ravens. You talked about their culture and what they stand on. Don't get me started with Ray Lewis. I got to slide and slide again, to get my message across. I don't have to do that. We know what time it is when we talking about the Baltimore Ravens. So now it's about, yo, what are you going to do when you Lamar Jackson and you going up against that dude? We can't forget what sports is all about. Your regular season, we get you. Your athleticism, we get it. Your abilities, we get it. But that also provokes us to ask, how come you can't get it done when you going up against this brother? You do it against everybody else. Now, if you don't go up, if you don't take out Patrick Mahomes like you Josh Allen and you lose 40-36 or something like that, we ain't looking at you. You did your thing. But when you scoring 10 after you running all over everybody all season long, now I got to look at you. And then they go out and they get Derrick Henry. And that's going to prevent them from clouding the box like you said, okay? Oh, that can unleash you even more. He has even less of an excuse now than he ever has before. It ain't about AFC title game appearances. It ain't about playoff appearances anymore with Lamar Jackson. Hell, it ain't even about the Super Bowl. It's about one dude that repeatedly stands in your way. His name is Patrick Mahomes. In the conversation as the GOAT, already considered arguably the GOAT if he wins 3 back-to-back. What you gonna do about it, Lamar? That's it.
Yep.
That's what we talking about.
Okay, so I will say, first off, I did love the impression of the Ray Lewis slide.
That was good.
And look, you know what? Stephen A. is an entertainer. Absolutely an entertainer. But again, Kevin, we're back to a conversation where we're singling out a specific player. And the mention he did was Matthew Stafford being on the Detroit Lions for all those years and not having a quote-unquote good team, and he gets traded to L.A. and they win the Super Bowl. That's where his comment was there. But, Kevin, once again, Lamar Jackson is being singled out in a conversation where you could wrap in a lot of other quarterbacks to this situation, and you could make the same case for them. But because Baltimore is an organization with great culture and great organizational stability, they still want to blame all the failures on Lamar Jackson. I think that's the part where I think is not a fair assessment when we're talking about the shortcomings for Baltimore in the postseason.
Yeah, and that is a quarterback thing, first of all, where quarterbacks do tend to, get more blame than other positions. But, I can go and give you multiple different examples where, if we're talking about a team, well, when Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everybody wasn't talking about, okay, Mahomes lost the game. It was, well, his offensive line couldn't block for him. And so that was blame shifted off of Mahomes and onto a different part of the team. And so when we talk about Lamar Jackson in that Kansas City game, Lamar didn't play well enough in the game. We can all say that, and we can all acknowledge it. But there's not really a mention, at least nationally, at least I haven't seen a bunch of it, of, the Ravens only ran the ball 6 times and abandoned their entire identity on the way there. And it's a multitude of factors. And then with the other point, we can also say Lamar's had some really good defenses, some awesome, historic, like last year's defense. And if you want to do the Matthew Stafford thing, then his Lions teams were not really good, but he also played with Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
he played with Megatron.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about it from the who has Matthew Stafford had around him and who was Lamar Jackson had around him, well, Lamar Jackson hasn't had anybody close.
No,
not even. Then there's Cooper Kupp.
I was just about to say Lamar has yet to have experienced any sort of wide receiver one type of talent.
Could we pull up while we're doing this for a second? And Kevin, you can finish your point. Is pulling up the yardage receiving wise leaders for Lamar over those time. And Lamar's skill set's different than other quarterbacks where he has the ability to lead his team in rushing because he's electrifying. That's a skill. So you're going to throw less. But Kevin, the same point, I think if he just left it though at team, saying the Ravens as a team were letting it down, I think that people could say, hey, the Ravens talent-wise, they could have been to a couple Super Bowls. But to put that all on number 8 for what he's done and being a 2-time MVP, he could step up in bigger moments, Kev, right? But also the whole team in general could have played better. And for a lot of cases, like against the Titans in the playoffs,
that's just it. Like
Derrick Henry ran for 200,000 yards and threw a touchdown pass.
Right. That was my thing. Like, just it's a good segue because up until last year, it was like Lamar sucks in the playoffs. Lamar can't win a playoff game. Well, then he goes out and wins a playoff game, and then now he gets himself to the AFC Championship game, wins 2 MVPs. Like, I think that there's just a lot of comparison to other quarterbacks not named Patrick Mahomes, and they're trying to, I guess, rank them above Lamar. I mean, I know Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl and actually beat Patrick Mahomes to get there, but Joe Burrow hasn't done anything else since then, or he hasn't. That's I would say his only accomplishment. And this isn't to take away from Joe Burrow the talent, because he is an elite talent. However, Joe Burrow has 0 MVPs. So I just think that and
who's his wide receivers?
The goal, like exactly. The goalposts continue to just get moved for Lamar Jackson. And it's like, what happens when he wins the Super Bowl? He's going to be compared to Patrick Mahomes again, and then he has to win a few more in order to be considered better than Patrick Mahomes, which I don't even think is a fair comparison, only because Patrick Mahomes is one of one.
And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. They have the best offensive-minded coach in the NFL with Andy Reid. That's not hurting anyone's feelings. That's just the reality. That duo is head and shoulders the best. And their coaching staff too, like Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, they leaned on them. It's a really good team, and what they've created there in Kansas City, because Kansas City's offense last year was not a Super Bowl caliber offense that people considered, but their defense was, and their offense made enough plays at the right time to win it. What are those stats, Zach, for Lamar Jackson's numbers? And this is no knock. I love all the talented wide receivers that the Ravens have.
Yeah.
But I think the point is, we just brought up, like, Stafford went from Calvin Johnson, then went to Cooper Kupp, and Sean McVay in gray offense. Patrick Mahomes had Kelsey and some other guys. What we got?
Yeah, so the leading receiver with Lamar Jackson is, I think, obviously we all probably expected, Hollywood Brown, who in 40 games had 2,119 receiving yards. The next guy goes all the way down to 1,400 yards exactly, and is Willie Snead.
Yeah.
Number 3, just over 1,000 yards at 1,027. You have Rashad Bateman, and then Zay Flowers at 858 at number 4.
Who was a rookie last year.
Yeah. And then the next guy is Devin Duvernay, who in 52 games, only 780 receiving yards.
Do we have Mark Andrews' numbers? Because he is.
Well, so this is wide receivers. Let me see tight ends. So
because Mark Andrews has been the security blanket.
Yep.
Yeah. Reliable.
And also, like, Patrick Mahomes have had Travis Kelsey, who is, again, if you have a great tight end, elite tight end.
He also had he had Tyreek Hill.
And that helps
one
too.
Of the best wide receivers in the league, and who is now the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, here's with Lamar, and this isn't a knock at Jalen Hurts, but give Lamar the Eagles wide receiving core, and I really believe he would have won a Super Bowl by now. If you gave Lamar the Eagles wide receiving core, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, the guys they have over there in Philadelphia, he would have won a Super Bowl by now with those guys, with those, that talent, the wide receiver position. It's
I agree. I agree. And again, that's no knock. I love the talent that Zay Flowers is and what Rashad Bateman has shown and flashed. And maybe we have some things in the future to talk about that with maybe our guest tomorrow, Kevin. So we'll discuss it further. But the reality is when you look at guys who have proven things in the league for a while, that is one thing. Zach, do you have it pulled up?
Yes, Mark Andrews has, without a doubt, the best receiver he's had. 4,156 yards in 78 games played. But then even that drops down to the next guy is Nick Boyle at 641 yards. Isaiah Likely coming in at third with 616. So it's not a lot of talent, that he's had to deal with. Obviously, it helps when you have Mark Andrews. It helps when I think Zay Flowers can go take a step into becoming more of a number one-esque receiver. But to compare, also, here's the other thing. Yes, the Lions were not good, but as we said, they had Megatron, they had Calvin Johnson. They also were behind in every single game, and their whole strategy was throw it 55 times a game. Yeah, you're going to get insane numbers when you are throwing it 90% of the time. Lamar Jackson is a winner. He's taken teams. When he took over in 2018, he had to run the table to get this team to the playoffs in an offense that wasn't suited for him, and he gets it done. We've seen time after time, unanimous MVP with a rookie Hollywood Brown, a second-year Mark Andrews, and then Willie Snead. That's how he's winning.
Well, yeah, you also got to factor in, not to cut you off, but Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator as well. So
yeah,
look at those numbers. That's why the numbers are the way they were.
And another thing, because it's the ability to get the most out of your guys and for how you're going to run your system and how the Ravens have run their system since Lamar has taken over. They've gradually changed the philosophy of how they're going to make it look. It's been a lot of different offensive coordinators. Now you have a Todd Monken offense going into year 2. I think my biggest argument with this is not just a Lamar Jackson issue. You can look at a team issue. If they lose it, last year you can talk about if it was play calling in the playoffs and making too many mistakes, and part of that is on Lamar Jackson, no doubt about it. That on the offensive side. But then you want to go back to the playoffs in 2019. That was a team collectively. They were in Tennessee territory 8 times, and then their defense couldn't stop the run. So it's a team component. I think that's where I go to. But as we know, guys, quarterbacks are going to take the brunt of it. And for the Ravens, well, it's just loud and clear. It's Super Bowl or bust. And if Lamar Jackson, the Ravens don't get to the Super Bowl, we're going to hear this same conversation over and over and over again.
I think it's going to be different this year, Rip. If everyone stays healthy, if Derrick Henry performs the way we know Derrick Henry can perform and be a 1,000-yard back and find the end zone, double-digit touchdowns on the ground this season like he's done in the past with the Titans, and they remain healthy and they fall in an AFC championship game, I don't think you're going to hear excuses. And I don't even want to call them excuses. Ravens fans are passionate about their guy. They're going to stick up for Lamar Jackson. If he underperforms, you are going to hear people say Lamar Jackson underperforms. They're not stupid. They watch football. They really enjoy the game. But I think the knock on Ravens fans from the outside perspective has been, oh, you guys stick up for your quarterback too much. You make too many excuses. I really don't think that's the case. I think this year, if Ravens fans, if they get to the game, Lamar Jackson underperforms again, in the AFC Championship game, because he did, but it wasn't all his fault in that game. That's what I'm saying. Not winning a Super Bowl has not been all on Lamar Jackson. This season with the team they have, if they can stay healthy, offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, Lamar Jackson underperforms, I think people are going to say what they need to say.
They will say objectively, but the reality is, if you look at it, if Lamar Jackson stays healthy for a season, the sample size of where the Ravens are going to be going into the postseason.
You do.
That's what we're going to see. It should be fun.